Okay, y'all, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Mallory White. I am the Director of External Affairs here at the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy week to join us so we can talk about public assistance after a disaster. This is a very hot button topic right now, given with what's happening in Hinds County, and we understand that. But public assistance is something that can be very complicated, and we just want to make sure that you are armed with the best information that you have for your viewers, listeners, readers. So if you get asked any questions about it, you can answer them as well. So we understand that all of this information that we are about to talk about is public record. We are recording it right now, and we will be providing that recording on our YouTube page. And the slideshow that we're about to share with you is also public record, and I have no problem sharing that in an email form to you. That'll also be on our website. Hopefully I can figure out how to get the recording downloaded and saved. Just want to let you know that it is recording and it will be available to you. We ask that any of this information that we're sharing with you today, please share with the folks in your newsroom to make sure that they are well informed as well. One issue that we had this past week was we were getting the same question from different reporters from the same network or from the same newsroom, and that kind of makes our job a little difficult because we're slowing down our rhythm of things, but we have no problem answering any of your questions. But if y'all could just kind of coordinate with your newsroom about what's being discussed, that would help make our jobs easier, just a little bit easier as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and you are going to see our MEMA Media Day PowerPoint. And if someone can just let me know that you can see this, I would appreciate it. Any of my team on the call, if you can just let me know. Jessica, can you let me know?
Yes, ma'am. We see.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so just want to make sure. So a quick agenda for today is we're going to be discussing what is public assistance versus individual assistance. And I think for the majority of you all, you already know this, but we just want to cover all of our bases. Then we're going to discuss where is the state in requesting public assistance for this winter weather event. County reported damage. We're going to go through that and explain to you public assistance work categories and the supporting documentation that has to be provided to FEMA whenever requesting public assistance. And then we're also going to discuss requesting resources, how cities and counties go about requesting resources from the state. And then we'll open it up to any questions. So the first thing we want to show you is public assistance versus individual assistance. You all are very well versed on this, I believe. We do see a struggle, though, with the general population of understanding what exactly public assistance is versus individual assistance. So this is just a quick infographic that we have shared before. Individual assistance, as for individuals, families, homeowners, renters that have a loss during a disaster. And you all know this, they have to live in the county that was declared a disaster, and that disaster has to be declared by the president. And what is available for individual assistance: grants to help pay for temporary housing, emergency home repairs, uninsured or underinsured personal property losses. That's a big question we get a lot of times is, hey, I have insurance, however, I don't know if I can qualify. Well, it's one of those things that it just depends. It depends if your insurance did not cover all of the damage to make your home fully livable. That would be a possibility that they could apply, or they could be eligible for individual assistance. And then other serious disaster related expenses, medical expenses caused by the disaster. And so we just want to make sure that everyone who hears whenever we say, hey, we're applying for public assistance or we're applying for individual assistance, they really understand the difference. So today our big focus is going to be public assistance. And who is eligible for public assistance? That's your local and state governments, as well as certain nonprofits for declared counties. FEMA can provide up to 75% reimbursement for eligible cost. We'll dig into that a little bit later. How to become eligible: a major disaster declaration for public assistance must be declared by the president, which is something we are currently working on. And assistance may include emergency protective measures, debris removal, infrastructure repairs, or replacement needed due to disaster-related damage. So let's dig into where exactly we are right now. So we decided during Hurricane Zeta, the External Affairs Department put together how the state requests FEMA individual assistance, because we were getting a lot of questions of where is our assistance following that disaster. So we decided to do one for public assistance for the winter storm event, because individual assistance doesn't look like it's likely going to happen for this. We didn't reach that type of threshold. So we are currently on step number 7. FEMA conducts damage assessments. And so what they are doing is all the damage that's been reported to us, they are going through and validating. All of that validation, the numbers, the amount of damage and everything that they give back to us, saying this is what we have seen is your damage. We have to add FEMA's damage numbers to our disaster declaration to request public assistance from the president. So we can't use MEMA numbers. We have to use FEMA validated numbers to put that in for a public declaration or a major disaster declaration request. Once that finishes up, and that process typically takes about a week to 2 weeks, depending, MEMA will draft a request for federal assistance. And I'll go ahead and tell you, we're already starting to draft that. We are waiting for the FEMA validated numbers. So we are sort of on number 8, but we're not completely there because we haven't gotten all of our documentation in just yet to do that. And then that request will go to the governor. His office will look at it and then sign it and send it over to not only the president, but FEMA as well, for them to look at it. So if approved, and we anticipate that we will be approved for public assistance, the application process for assistance opens. So just because a county is included in a major disaster declaration, it does not, for public assistance, it does not necessarily mean that they can get public assistance. And I'll explain that. So let's go back just a little bit. For them to even be considered in a public assistance declaration, the county has to meet their threshold. And for those who are listening and are interested in it, a threshold for each county varies based on their population. And we've had this question a lot, and some of y'all may know it. Hinds County's threshold is $954,159. And it's probably one of the highest thresholds in the state because they had the highest population. So that number again is $954,159. That is Hinds County's damage threshold. So not only that does the county have to meet the threshold, but the state as a whole has to meet a damage threshold as well. And you can see it on your screen what our state threshold is. That's $4,599,310. And we have reached that threshold. And these numbers, these threshold numbers, this is something that FEMA puts together. This is not something that MEMA or the state really has any say-so in. So private nonprofit electric power cooperatives also report damage to counties, by counties, and they submit that information to MEMA as well. And so those damage numbers are what really put us over the top to qualify for public assistance for this winter weather event. Now, just to let you know, that excludes your Mississippi Power, your Entergy's, your for-profits. It only qualifies for private nonprofit electric co-ops. So after the declaration approval, say, all right, President Biden has already approved it. What has to happen then, your counties and your cities must apply for assistance. And when approved, then they have to submit projects to FEMA for approval. So like I was saying earlier, just because your county was added into the declaration, the major disaster declaration, the work is only beginning for these counties and these cities. They have to apply, and then they have to submit projects for those projects to be approved. FEMA has a lot of detailed information that they are going to request for them to approve a project. So just FYI, FEMA is the one that approves or denies the projects. MEMA does not. We can assist the counties in maybe helping them build their project worksheets, but and we give them guidance in this, but the final say-so does come down to FEMA. And one extra nugget of information, once we get a PA declaration for our major disaster declaration for public assistance, 15% of that money actually goes to a fund called Hazard Mitigation Grant Fund. And hazard mitigation grants are, it's money available for counties and cities to apply for to mitigate. For instance, after Hurricane Katrina, we had a lot of firehouses reinforced down on the coast through mitigation funds to make those firehouses a shelter, to reinforce them, to make them shelter proof and tornado proof, things like that. And that was used through hazard mitigation funds. A big holdup though, just for transparency purposes, one reason a lot of counties or cities do not take advantage of the hazard mitigation funds is because they have to, there's a cost share with it, and they have to supply 25% of that cost share. But that's for hazard mitigation. So we're going to get into I know y'all have heard of the 75-25%. So for public assistance, to get 100% reimbursement, FEMA gives up to 75%. The state will supply 12.5%, and the applicant must do 12.5%. So the state plus the applicant equals that 25% that we are on the hook for, that FEMA does not cover. So, but unfortunately, that does not apply to the private nonprofits. The state does not put up a 25% for them. They only get the FEMA 75%. So this information, this is preliminary numbers, but these are the numbers for the winter weather event. So you're more than happy to take a copy of this so people can understand. So during public assistance, or for public assistance, damage is reported a little bit differently in our crisis track tool. If you notice right here for damage reports, we don't have houses and public infrastructure, we don't have houses and roads and farms and businesses. You're going to see information broken down into different public assistance work categories. And each category stands for a certain thing. Cat A is for debris, Cat B is for emergency protective measures, and you're going to see Cat D right there, which is water control facilities. And obviously that's our big number, and a majority of that number is coming from Hinds County. That's where their majority is of the damage that they received is from their water control facilities. Now, this all is statewide. So these are statewide numbers, but I just wanted to give you a breakdown of kind of what's being reported in which category. And then at the bottom, you can see current co-op total damage is around 14 million. So even if the other counties didn't have this, it was the co-ops that were going to put us eligible for meeting our damage threshold. Now, again, just a quick reminder, if you do report these numbers, please explain to your viewers, readers, and listeners that these are preliminary estimates. These numbers right here are currently being validated by FEMA as we speak during their joint damage assessments. And again, we'll share this slideshow with you via email. So one thing, whenever applying for public assistance, and you're going to see, depending on which category that you're asking for, you're going to have to supply documentation to FEMA. And Hinds County is one that is focused on Cat D. That's where a majority of their damage is. And so this right here is the supporting documentation that FEMA is going to ask for when trying to decide if they will approve or deny a project. So it goes from photographs to estimations for work to be completed, estimate by a professional familiar with the facility, recent inspection reports or maintenance records that show pre-disaster condition. So these are all things that FEMA is going to ask for. And you can see based on the other categories, the other different documentation that would be asked. Now this supporting documentation is based on what has to be submitted for each project. So again, let's say we have a county that is going to apply for public assistance. You have to be specific on what your project is going to be. It can't just be the whole infrastructure. You're going to have to be very specific. And this is the supporting documentation that they would have to provide and this documentation is needed to show was this facility or was this infrastructure damaged before the storm even happened, or was it the storm itself that actually caused damage to this infrastructure? And one more thing, I just wanted to add in here just to make some clarifications for anyone, is how resources are actually requested through the state. So you have your disaster that happens, and residents, this is why we always encourage residents that if you have an immediate need, and it's not an emergency type need, immediate needs have to be reported to your county emergency management agency. So they can assist and assess the needs of their counties. Once they exhaust all of their local resources, then they make an official request to MEMA for any type of resources. And MEMA coordinates based on the county's needs and resource availability. And then we deliver that to the counties for the counties to distribute. So this is what happened during the winter weather event. The state was able to handle the requests that were coming in. If it would have exceeded our needs, we could have requested FEMA to come in, but the state was able to handle the resource requests coming in. We have state contracts on standby to assist with any type of water needs and things like that. And so we just wanted to kind of give y'all just a behind the scenes look of how that really works. And there's a portal, an online portal that county EMA directors use to make these requests, and it's called WebEOC. So if you ever hear us talk about WebEOC, that's what that is, and they're putting the request in through that online portal. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing the screen and I'm going to open it up for questions. I don't think I have to unmute you. I think you can unmute yourself. But if you have any questions, please let us know so we can just better explain this process for public assistance.
Hey Mallory, Kobe Vance with MPB News.
Hey Kobe.
I wanted to ask, could you just go through the basic instructions for just a regular citizen if they have damage on their property? What's the first step they need to do to be able to contact their emergency management agency and begin to start this filing process?
Yeah, so that would be for individual assistance, and so that's totally different from the public assistance. And so if someone has damage to their property, I would first off, go ahead and take pictures of it. Go ahead and take pictures of the damage that you're seeing. If you have immediate needs and you need tarps or water or anything like that, we encourage people to call their emergency management agency, their office number, and go ahead and report their needs to them. If it's obviously an emergency, we encourage people to call 911. But the reason we say contact your EMA director is because it all starts local. The locals have to know what their needs are immediately, so then they can contact us if they need to, and we can get in there with supplies as soon as we can. So definitely take pictures of your damage. If you can, do it safely. Documentation is important. So if we do get an individual assistance declaration, that those pictures will come in handy in your application process. And we also use, Kobe, we do reach out a lot to our volunteer agencies to help us out as well. VOAD, American Red Cross, Salvation Army. We do try and use all of our local resources that we can before we call in the feds to assist us. And that's what we're supposed to do. There's that process is how we're supposed to handle that. Anyone
And
else?
public assistance, I'm curious, how long does this process usually take?
So with public assistance, we have 30 days until the end date of the event. And FEMA has said that the end date of this event is February 18th. No, February 19th. 19th?
I believe not.
Kelly, my PIO is in here. So February 19th. So from February 19th, we have 30 days to request a major disaster declaration. And just because we get a major disaster declaration and some counties haven't put in their damage assessments yet, once we get our major disaster declaration, we still have 30 days after that to add any additional counties. If you go back on our website and look under our press releases, you will see after I think it was the Easter storms, we added 26 additional counties for public assistance after we got the original declaration. So there is a timeline. That's why we encourage our EMA directors to get their damage assessment in as quickly as possible so we can go ahead and start this process because we are on a time clock. And then FEMA, I'm not exactly sure how long they have to go in and approve projects. I don't know if they're actually on a timeline, but I can get you a timeline if they are on one. But I don't know if they are on a timeline to approved projects that have been requested once counties and cities put those in. Anybody else have any questions for us? Oh, no timeline. They have no timeline. FEMA does not. Anybody else have any questions for us?